What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Big Bike BMX. My name is Isaac, and I'm here to talk to you about all kinds of fun BMX stuff. I have my ride or die homeboy, 80s BMX Craig. What's up, Craig?
Yo, what's up, Isaac, man? How's it going, brother?
Dude, I'm living the dream like you wouldn't believe. Yesterday, I turned 50, you guys, and I'm pretty psyched that I made it to the half century mark, which is kind of cool. I'm stoked
Happy
about
birthday.
that.
Happy birthday.
So, what's up, 80s kids? So hey, you know what, Craig? I'm really excited. You called me and you're like, bro, have a seat. And I was like, I'm already sitting. I'm old. And he goes, hey man, one of our favorite guests is coming back on. And I'm like, do tell. So Craig, go ahead and tell me the story about, and you can talk about how like we got stoked and then introduce our guest.
Yeah, man. It's a lot. There's a lot of stoke behind this because a year or two ago, Isaac, you could remind me when, but I believe it was last year, we had such a special time with our special guest tonight, the first time, and tonight we're doing it again because so much cool and rad stuff has been happening with our guests that we had to have him back, dude. So I'm going to just not waste any time with this intro. You guys check this out. Again, back on Big Bike BMX, we have our special guest, the amazing artist and creator of the Radical Rick cartoon series with a lot of really cool stuff to talk about tonight. Welcome to Big Bike BMX, Mr. Damian Fulton. Damian, welcome to the show, man.
Hey man, it is so good to be back. I look forward to this. I was talking to you guys earlier, and I've been eating good all day and stretching in between breaks because I want to be here today, and I want to just bring it.
I love it. I love it, man. So hey, welcome back, dude. We're super stoked. So you guys, just our fans, last time we spoke to you, you had just released some Radical Rick rings. I go straight to merch, you guys, because I love to surround myself with BMX stuff. I love stuff for my desk, stuff I can wear that reminds me of just simple times of BMX when I was growing up. And Radical Rick really fills that love cup, and the nostalgia goes with it. So last time we talked, I remember there was like you had some rings. And that was about it. You were like, yeah, I got some stuff in the works. But that was really it. You had some rings. You've got all kinds of new goodies. So please, just talk about the journey that you've been on since then, because I know, like just in Craig and I's universe, our sponsors, Crush BMX, came out with some Radical Rick gloves. And then our other sponsor, Night Bike Co., had a Radical Rick stem, a limited edition stem. I love the limited edition stuff that you're doing. So kind of take us through the last, I mean, we talked to you in 2020, so it's been a hot minute. Tell us more about what's been going on with you, my friend.
Well, thank you for that introduction. 2020, the year of COVID, also happened to be Radical Rick turned 40. He was birthed in 1979. And the first issue was January 1980. The Radical Rick comic strip appeared in BMX Plus magazine. And so what happened was I was aware that Radical Rick it was funny. It was starting to be, I started hearing chatter about Radical Rick, and I saw fans. That sounds so weird, huh? Fans, but people who are interested in Radical Rick making their own merch and products and like van shoes they customize, and murals and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, oh my gosh, this little dude that has been with me for so long, even though I stopped drawing Radical Rick in 1993 after a 13-year run in the magazine, and then later it was picked up in the early 2000s, kind of in reruns, and I would just send them the whatever boards I had left, and they'd rerun them. So he was in the public for probably 15 years or so, 15, 20 years, where he was visible. You could get him off the newsstand, and then print went away. And but anyway, so when it started getting to be about 40 years, I said, you know what, I had to just look into this world, and there was just such a great vibe and outpouring for the memories of Radical Rick and the comic strip. I heard something so cool today. I was reading in some comments, and somebody said, Radical Rick is the reason to this day I pick up a magazine and I look at it from the back to the front, because Radical Rick was always in the back. And so I said, I mean, that is the coolest thing, right? That Radical Rick made some kind of joy and impact, and I love hearing that stuff because I had all my heroes, right? So long story short, I said, hey, let's talk to some people, and a lot of really cool people, you know, George from Night BMX reached out to me, and just fans in general. Bill Ryan from Supercross BMX, you know, you guys had Bill Ryan on. Can that guy tell a story or what?
Yes,
oh yeah, Bill was great.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that you may not know about Bill is he is nutty for bobbleheads. I mean, like, if you look at the entire spectrum of BMX shenanigans, there's just no manufacturer, there's no distributor, there's nothing about bobbleheads except for he's got, you know, he created his own team in bobbleheads. So see how I'm doing that? I'm demonstrating. But anyway, yeah, so he reached out and he goes, let's do some bobbleheads. He's done Scuzzer Switchblade, and he did, of course, MX Mug, which, by the way, trying to figure out how to do that nose for those manufacturing guys, you know, that was a feat of design brilliance. And now he's got another one. We're working on another one, which I guess I can say Spike Speed Wrench, which was the little mechanic dude on the skateboard that had this kind of whirling power that was part of the Rad Squad. So he is deep. He's into it.
He was into it. You know, I
Yeah.
got to say, Damian, one of the things you brought up, I just want to make this note, man, because it's so cool to talk to you after being a kid and reading through those magazines. And what you said you heard today, how it was, you know, quite the treat to read that magazine from the back to the front. It really was. It was like once you got through the race picks and the you know, the advertisements and the bike tests and all that, letters to the editor, you did get a treat at the back of BMX Plus with the Radical Rick comics. And back then, man, like, comics were big. And I mean, I don't know if they've always been big, but back then when I was a kid, there were comic book stores, and I never really got into, personally, like, I was never big into comics, but I was big into Mad Magazine. I was big into Cracked.
Oh yeah.
So Radical Rick was like my connection to the offshoot comics with a BMX related comic. It all made sense. And man, it was a treat, man. I want to say thank you for creating Radical Rick, man. And I don't know if I got a chance to tell you that last time, but it all made sense back then as a kid. And just to see it like you're talking about it now kind of gives me chills, because as Isaac said, you know, it's revitalized and it's now back out there. And hopefully there's some kid or even adult who's just getting Radical Rick for the first time or seeing it again going, I remember this.
Yeah.
And I just said, to me, that's so cool, man.
Well, thank you. You know, last time we talked, I think Isaac brought up the idea that these touch points, this nostalgic touch point along the way for all of us, it's something can trigger, or you just want to sort of savor that moment. Maybe it brings back this kind of simpler time, or there was less constraints. The world was certainly less toxic, right? Or maybe it was toxic, we didn't even know it. You know, we were just riding through it.
Right.
But and I think that's true about I'm so fortunate that that I was given the opportunity to doodle that, because you know, it's been so radical. You guys know I do all other kinds of stuff, and Radical Rick was what I did for joy. You know, that was the thing that I could do. When I was in the world of advertising, it was like focus groups. You had to get everything approved. You had to present stuff. You had all-nighters that you had to do to present some new product, you know. And Radical Rick was like, okay, nobody's telling me what the storyline is. Plus, the editors at Plus, they never said, "Hey, I think you ought to dial up the energy, pal," or "Hey, we need to do a story about the Grands or pool riding." Or they never ever, they were hands off, collaborators. I don't know what you call them. So I really felt like Radical Rick was a chance to do to just be super expressive and not be confined by life, right? And that's the beauty of Radical Rick too, is like there's no boundaries. He could he could blow the side of a mountain apart and create a half pipe so that everybody could ride after a race was canceled. He could using the attack lack or the rattle lack, and he could turn a sign that was a fast food restaurant sign. Whammo Burgers is where they used to eat, which was the McDonald's M turned upside down, Whammo, and like he could ride that. So that's sort of the beauty of Radical Rick, and to get to your point about how all this merch to satisfy your merch addiction, Isaac, is it's really been cool people who and everybody I've worked with have been just really great. How would you like to work together? And when that happens, by the way, there's lots of people who like to do things and would like to do things, but after a while, you kind of get a sense like, I think this thing is going to go really wrong, or this is happening for the wrong reason. And thankfully, they just sort of disappear once you kind of say, really, like, what do you have in mind? How many? Where's distribution? No, you do all the work. Don't you worry. You create this incredible thing and it'll be awesome. Well, I need kind of like, what's your business plan? I mean,
right. Well, one of the things that's pretty cool is, and we can talk about this after, we get into the actual details of who you have worked with, is that, folks like Crush BMX, and we can talk about what you did with them when you collaborated. They're a new company. They were not around in the 80s or 90s or even 2000s. So for them to get excited and for you to say, yes, this does work, I would like to do this with you. That's pretty cool too, because you have worked with brands like Flight and Haro, which are lineage brands, which are, they were back in the 80s, they were part of the scene, but then, you're working with new folks too, like Crush, Night Bike, like Isaac mentioned, but that's pretty cool that, and it shows, where you're at as an artist. Like, you don't want to just come up with an idea just to push it out. It seems like you really want to do something that's not only creative, but it's going to be something that's cool, and it's going to, have some type of impact on people who find Radical Rick or find him again. So that's really interesting.
Yeah. Thank you. Because, this, I can't show you the contents of this because there's nothing. I could, but there's nothing in there because this is just the box. But to give you an example, what Flight does is they do these custom pad and plate sets, and like they go crazy. They print the interior of the box. Who does that? Right? So, I love working with people who say, like, I'll go, hey, could we do this? They go, no, we're going to do that. And that's what those people at Flight do. And Cat over, those guys, I really enjoy working with them. Those are the people I like working with.
It's cool. Here's what's cool, man. It's like, yes, there's companies like Flight that have been around for a long, long, long time, historic brands that are still under the same ownership, or but you get the George from Night Bike Co., you get the Cat from Crush BMX. These are fans that grew up and now have BMX related businesses, and you know what I mean. So that's where I think it's so dope. It's like, you do have a brand, and I say Flight like it's not a mom and pop. I know it is, but Flight's been around for so long. I look at it as a legacy brand. So Flight contacting you is very different than like Cat going, hi, you don't know me, but I'm a big fan of Radical Rick and BMX, and that pitch must be so awkward for fans to reach out and be like, hey, because I know George very well, and I know how like introverted that guy is.
Totally
so,
soft spoken, absolutely
soft spoken, and just to reach out and be like, man,
yeah,
I just got to think, man, how cool it is to sit there and think like, I'm gonna hit up Damian Fulton and see if I can make a Radical Rick, collab. You know what I mean? I hope he thinks my stuff is cool. You know what I mean? That just must be the coolest feeling. But anyway, dude,
oh, man.
yeah, you hearing from fans and doing stuff, I love that. So you've got gloves from Crushed BMX. That was one of the things that came out of that. The Radical Rick stem from Night Bike Co. Flight. Tell me about like who pitched who on with Flight. That seems like a really cool collab. And then tell me more about what it is. It's pad sets. Is it more than one? When you say it's a one-off, tell me more about what I can get at Flight from Radical Rick.
Yeah, Flight does a really smart thing, and it started with the 40th anniversary. And I think I can't tell you who talked to who. Erin over there, she's right, man. She's so good, and I love those guys because we have brainstorming sessions, and they're passionate about BMX and their audience. So they do stuff like in this box set, they go, okay, we want to blow people's minds. You know how cool it is when you open up something, you get an extra sticker. They're like throwing in donuts, and they're doing they made these cool, remember little punk rock buttons? I remember that fondly. And so they made buttons, and then they and it'll be assigned and numbered. I think the first set was 40, only 40 for the 40th anniversary, but they sold out so quick that we're just doing sets of 50. And you get assigned and numbered number plate and a pad set. And then she throws in all those tchotchkes, and I hand sign and number each one of 50, and I sign the boxes as well. So you get kind of this holistic, full-on, instant Radical Rick collection. And I think that's really great. And I work with those guys. What's great is her team, Christopher over there is their designer. We do this sort of like sparring match back and forth. And well, what if we did this? And what if we did this? And I'll give you an example. If you look at the new plate, you can go to flightbmx.com and you can see it. But so just try to imagine Radical Rick was always number one. I never drew a plate without him being number one because that's who he is. And I'd always throw on stickers and stuff. And in the spirit, Craig, of Mad Magazine, you remember that they do parodies, but they'd always change the name just a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And so
right.
When they first presented the plate to me, it had to be completely different than the plate that's on the Haro bike, and we could talk about that later. So they did a very traditional heat formed on the bars plate with little ears coming off, and it was really, really clean. And I said, there's something missing about this. We went in, and it needed stickers, right? Because your bike would be covered, your plate would be covered with stickers because you wanted to look like a pro, And so, but what we did is like we do you remember those silly? I don't remember what they were, but they were like parody stickers you get in a bubblegum pack, and it would have a brand, and instead of saying Kleenex, it would say Clean Yes, and instead of I don't know, Coca-Cola, it would be Joca-Cola. Always twisting the name to make it
mashed up logos. I remember buying the stickers for like a quarter outside a grocery store. Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Yeah. So I said, well, let's do the same thing. So we came up with, instead of BMX Plus, it says BMX Pus. And I think instead of Skyway, I think it says I think it says Skyweight.
That's funny. Yeah.
Or all these, instead of Echo, it says Yeko, and Van sticker becomes Vanilla. So I didn't pull any punches. They went with it. I'm sure everybody gets the spirit of this. We're just poking fun at these brands. And so the plate looks great. You know, it has an outline of all these Radical Rick comics, classic white plate with the ears, #1. And then there's all these stickers. And if you just look at it, it looks like a period correct plate. But if you look closer, you go, that's not right. So yeah, that's you'll see it when it comes. It's out now, and I don't know if they have any left, but there was only edition of 50, and it turns any bike into a Radical Rick bike. You know,
I think
when you're
that
kidding.
flight has actually shown, or I've seen it. So I mean, it's been out. I'm not saying it's been out there, but they either gave a sneak peek or they released some clips on it. It looks super cool, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it's cool. Great collaboration with those guys.
I'm gonna bring it up now. Actually, I've got one right here. Let's take a look.
All right, let's go to the magic camera.
Let's take a look. All right, so here we go. BMX Plus here.
Oh yeah. So you can see they've got the certificate, the donuts, those little buttons down there.
Yeah.
There's Oakley becomes the oakiest.
Sunturd is I love Sunturd.
Sunturd's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and they're all, you know, I have a crimper too, like on the certificate, just so there wouldn't be any you know, counterfeits. I have a crimper, you know what that is, where it makes like a
you emboss a seal on the
yeah. It's a Stay Rad Radical Rick seal, certified rad or something. And so like in this one, in the Scuzzer one, it has one of those, and it also has all those buttons. I think it has a I hate Radical Rick button in there.
Oh yeah, it's got the circle and a line through Radical Rick right here. I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a funny story about the Scuzzer one. So I took each plate and I enhanced by hand all the guts on the insect crash, and I smashed, and I took a hammer and I started battering all of the plates. It really looked like it was war torn, and you can see like the upside down peace sign that I did by hand. So they were printed first, and like I'd cross out the Radical Rick and RR sucks. I added all this. It was really fun to just, each one's different. You know, I scratched it. So the reason why I said it's funny is not because I like hands-on when you get something, you know, somebody touched it. But this guy wrote in the comments, he goes, "Why are you smashing the plates? I like mine smooth and perfect." And I went, "It's Scuzzer Switchblade. He's been through some stuff, you know?" and he goes, to his credit, he goes, "Okay, you got a point."
Very true.
I think that's cool that that you got the plate in your hands and made that, you know, you put your little twist on each one, and there's not one that's going to be like totally exactly alike. Especially, you know, they're scuffed up a little bit. Scuzzer's, he's rough on stuff. They're going to get a plate that's roughed up a little, not roughed up, but at least looks like Scuzzer had his hands on it.
Yeah, and the MX Mug one, I did the same sort of stuff where I ripped it up, just scraped it a little bit. Now, ironically, the Radical Rick one has no scuffing.
Oh no, it's clean, huh?
It's clean, but it has my signature and the number. But I said, okay, that one I want it to look like it's pristine. But anyway, we have there's stickers all over. Oh, there's a Whammo Burger sticker on the MX Mug one. If I mentioned, their favorite fast food place,
right here,
was Whammo Burgers, and these guys are great. They're just so much fun.
I love it. It looks like maybe Radical Rick. Oh, here it is, box set Radical Rick. There you go.
Yeah, that's it.
You got
they have some left. I think there's 50. I think there's 50 of them left. I mean, there's 50 of them in the edition.
Damian, talk a little bit about the comic strip on the pads and the plate. Is that something that's from a retro strip, or did you create that specifically for the plate and pad?
This is this idea about collaborating with Flight, and there was so on the plate, and these are all frames, like we kind of put some neat, you know, big moments from Radical Rick and mashed up a couple different episodes. And you know, like him jumping over the bus and that sort of stuff. It's a neat way to sort of do the best highlights of Radical Rick, and that's what you see on the pad set. And then to Flight's credit, Aaron was going, "Hey, I love this pad, I love this number plate, but something's missing." And she goes, "I just need something." I said, "Well, what if we were to take the comic strip and kind of tie that in, like we already have the pads, and now the pads and everything work together." Now, one disclaimer: when you look at that photo, this one does not have a signature, and this must have been an earlier prototype, because you'll see that it isn't wrapped, it isn't heat wrapped around the bars. Those are all perfectly fit around the bar.
There, there you can see where they wrap.
Yeah, there it is. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, they did a neat job. Like they did this, the top is die cut. Instead of being straight, they die cut the top of the Radical Rick, which I thought was really a sweet touch, you know.
Yeah, you can see it really good right here, how it's this is what he's talking about.
Right,
it's cut up.
right.
Yep, that's great, dude.
And let me throw this out too, just again, I'm not trying to like Flight is the world's greatest company, although they could be. They showed great restraint, and they didn't slap a big Flight logo over the front of it. I think that's, see how they just integrated it in at the bottom of the number plate, or the number. That's
right down here.
That is class. I like that. And when we get to the BMX, when we get to the Haro bike, I have another great shout out for how well Haro integrated their logo, how we came up with that integration.
Yeah.
So that's that stuff.
I love it. Yeah, tell me. I mean, you kind of opened the can of worms on the Haro bikes. You know, like if you could, I mean, tell me a little bit about the how this came to happen. How, first of all, let me just tell you, how cool is it for you to get the call and go, "Hey, man, somebody wants to make a Radical Rick bike." And my follow up to that is, how much pressure does that put on you to go?
Oh my gosh,
I can't imagine, dude. I can't imagine.
Hey. No one has asked that. No one has asked that. I'm getting goosebumps, because there you can sit behind me. Can you see it there, you guys? That's a prototype.
Yeah, we can see a little of it.
That's like, you know, little tease. That is a really good point, because here's the deal. We'll talk about the pressure first.
Yeah.
So once the deal was figured out, and it was really special. Okay, this is really so great, because I couldn't do a bike back in the day. Radical Rick was what's called editorial. It was, you know, not ad driven. It was its own content of the magazine. And I never put Radical Rick, I don't think so. There was a lot of episodes, but I don't think I ever put him on a bike, a brand name bike. If I did, it would be a parody bike, or I think it was just a nondescript bike.
I don't remember ever seeing a bike.
No.
Ever.
No.
I don't ever remember seeing like anything, right? At least my kid brain never, because trust me, bro, I looked for gussets. I looked for, you know what I mean? We all look for it. You know what I mean? There's iconic pieces of bikes, and I didn't see those. Like, I didn't see a loop tail. I didn't see the front end of a mongoose. We looked, bro. Let me tell you. Yeah, go ahead though. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. And you know, it had to be a nondescript bike, because it would not be cool. Haro would not appreciate it if all of a sudden Radical Rick is riding a Diamondback. So, and vice versa, right? So, hey, we're putting in advertising. What gives? Because it's a passive endorsement. I would think that you'd agree that would be pretty cool to have Radical Rick on that bike. So, what happened was, again, after the pandemic, everybody, you guys all remember, man, we were all just like cooped up. People want to ride bikes. Bicycling is going crazy, and all the BMX dads who used to ride BMX are going, my kids are going to ride a bike, but it's not just going to be a cruiser. It's going to be what I rode, and BMX went off the charts. This giant spike in BMX, and my gosh, I mean, there's a couple times in history when I feel like BMX has been vindicated. You know, I feel like when it got into X Games, the Warped Tour, the Olympics, you know, the ET, you know, it's like, yes. So, because it didn't really get the same kind of street cred as skateboarding and everything. So when the opportunity to do this bike came out, it was just, I mean, it was unreal. And although, you know, we had thought about and talked, and we'll talk later about the different manufacturers that were interested, but when it came time and Haro said, build that bike, I was basically staring at a blank canvas. And any artist or anybody who's faced a, you know, an awesome opportunity. And I think the last show we were talking about, Isaac, you were telling everybody, hey, if you got an opportunity to bite off more than you can chew, you take that bite. So I went big, and what I did was I said, and you know, John Bulchins was just an amazing, you know, he's so charismatic, right? And I'm telling him, you know, early on, I go, yeah, I kind of have this idea, you know, bike could tell a story. It could be like the extrapolation, the radical journey on the bike, not just a 80s bike, but like this comic strip taking over the bike. And he goes, one bike? No, like 3 bikes. You know, he like,
Of course.
we're going to do 3 of them. Yeah, I'm going to get my shillelagh and we're going to whack-a-mole. I can't do it.
And it makes sense. It totally makes sense because John, I mean, if you look at a couple of the Haro bikes, Damian, the Bob Haro tribute bike, it has some of Bob's artwork on the pad set and the seat. If you look at their Slow Ride 29-inch, there's artwork on there. They've got some boom boxes and mini trucks, and John, it just seemed like this is going to end up being the story you tell and elaborate on is going to be the perfect fit because Haro does like incorporating creativity and the minute details of putting artwork on the bike. So that all sounds like it's making sense so far.
Oh, good. So back to this pressure that Isaac mentioned. So I mean, it was really scary, but this is my thought process. What I did was I went back and I started looking at those episodes, and what were the keystones of that episode was adventure, a little bit of irreverence, and that Mad Magazine, a sort of sneaky, you know, like maybe your mom did, you know, looked at you thinking you're reading a comic book, but it was really kind of subversive. And so I wanted to bring some of that into this and maybe handle it different. And my fear is that, and it's so great, and maybe you do this like this imposter syndrome, like I don't know how to design a bike. You know, I'm going to disappoint all the hardcore guys that are going to be able to talk about how many millimeter the cranks are and you know, disc brakes versus traditional brakes.
Did you get into that? Was that something that you got brought into?
Well, do you know Kevin Connor over at
yeah,
Haro? I mean, he was really my mentor in that whole thing because I probably would have dramatically undersold what I expected on that bike. And you know, it's just one notch below Haro, the Haro signature. You know, that's a really nice price point. It's finished nicely, it's appointed nicely. So like I didn't want it to be an entry. I'd be saddened if it's an entry-level bike, you know. And
so would I. So would I.
Yeah, it'd be.
It can't be. It can't. It has to. It has to be. Yeah, for us old guys that are fans of the brand, yeah, it has to be up there.
Yeah.
Like,
well, wait
disc
till
brakes.
you see. Wait till you see. There's guys customizing them now. There is going to be some new ones coming out. Just personal takes on them, and I'm super excited about that. So anyway. What I could do is I could share with you the presentation I did to Haro, and you can see how all the bits and pieces of the magazine came together.
That would be amazing. Yeah, you have it. That's amazing. Yeah. Let's go.
Let me see if I can get this to be full screen for you. Is that full scrn?
It sure is.
Pretty good.
Yep.
Okay, so
full screen.
The first thing I want to do is look at first look 11/21/20. So that would have been about what, 7 months into COVID.
Yeah.
And so they were really, like I said, they were so cool. They said, you go do that thing. We don't want to be bossy. And I'm like going, hey, can you be bossy? Can you give me some parameters? I mean, what do you like about Radical Rick? And it forced me to go in and say what I like about Radical Rick, what works for me. This first cover page, I said, okay, I want to blow these guys away. And you're seeing little hints there of this was a double page spread in, I think, maybe 1990. We had just got out of the 80s. Radical Rick was really big. I shouldn't say Radical Rick was really big. I should say Radical Rick was the #1 feature in BMX Plus magazine. And I just wanted that. And this is a good piece that this was actually used for entertainment pitches when every now and then studios come up, Hollywood goes, hey, we want to make a cartoon. We want to make a movie. Stranger Things is all about the 80s. Let's do a Radical Rick. And I go, yes, you go do that thing. So, and of course, then Hollywood sucks it up and it disappears for a while. But
Right.
This sort of gives you the main players. And I wanted them to realize that it's more than Radical Rick. There's an ongoing story with heroes and villains. And you can see that I brought in from the very beginning kind of the fluorescent colors we know of, or the bright colors from the 80s. And this is what I kind of feel like is the epitome of Radical Rick, is this irreverence. Stay rad, don't be a wimp. I don't think you can say that. He wasn't a bully, but it's like, it really is like a battle cry. Don't, even for us older guys, like we're not gonna sit on the couch. We're gonna go out, we're gonna try to stay rad for whatever level we're in. We're gonna keep charging, right? Even if that means, oh my gosh, it's a bunny hop. It's at least we're pushing it. And so that was page 1. And then I gave them I said, hey guys, I want you to see the inspiration for where I'm getting on this bike. It's not just about the comic. There's certain key elements in Radical Rick. There's the masthead, and whether you know it or not, there's like all these disclaimers, because I worked in toy advertising. If you're an 80s guy, you probably remember all those He-Man commercials and toy commercials.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like the rocket firing Boba Fett. Don't shoot this in your mouth, kids.
Yes, I am. So being in the toy advertising world, we had all these disclaimers. So I just put them all through there. Warning, do not read this on an empty stomach, that kind of stuff. And then I had this secret code that it was kind of like, again, that subversive thing where in Mad Magazine, they have all those little funny cartoons in the gutter and on the edges. And so I started doing that, and there'd be a secret code, and kids who were really into Radical Rick could write letters back and forth in the Radical Rick code. And then there was sound effects, you remember? There's always a zing, wham, bam. And then crazy 80s patterns, because it was what was going on then, right? So I wanted them to know about Radical Rick, that, he was charging all the time. He had a bigger than life persona. He was a guy whose actions speak louder than words. And because of this overproductive rad gland, he just had to get at it, and he was easily addicted, like a moth to a flame. He just had to go for it. So I wanted them to be reminded of Radical Rick's sort of mission to just get rad. And one of the things I had all the time was I would have this masthead in the beginning, and it would usually have an episode number, like 137, and it might say who it features, Spike Speed Wrench and MX Mug, and then the name of the episode, like Eat More Whammo Burgers, or Soul Search, Inside Ride. So these are kind of the components. Not that I would use all of them on the bike, because it would just be, it would look like an explosion in a cartoon factory. But I wanted to, fans would expect to have something. The worst thing would be is if they just took a Radical Rick sticker, right, and slapped it on it.
Right.
So I wanted to show, and so what I did is I took these are all actual disclaimers from the magazine. Warning, this comic strip contains elements of raging lifestyle. Some material may not be suitable for twits, dweebs, dorks, zeros, losers, drips, dopers, and pinheads. I don't know what I was thinking back then, but
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and of course, it was always endorsed by the official overrated comic seal of the USA. Whatever I don't know what I was thinking. I was just having fun, and then there was the secret code, and I would slip that in all over the place in the magazine, and sometimes, give a niece or a nephew a nod or thank somebody. And then there was the sound effect. So how do I take all that stuff? Oh yeah, plus the patterns and color. And do you see that dot pattern? It was printed. Radical Rick was printed. It was not digital. It was back when there'd be a 4-color press and they would do color separation. So I wanted to integrate, I don't know how to do it, but could I bring in, introduce that color blend? Remember the 80s, like the t-shirts would have a blend,
sure.
and there you see 2 stickers that had that blend integrated in it. And so I wanted to bring that into the bike. And so this was sort of the idea is, can I take stickers, slam them all over the place, and, hide some stuff, including my signature and some of these rad codes. And then each seat tube would have a different story, and the head tube would all have some kind of different action. And if you see the real bike, what we did was, and this is really a wonderful nod to Haro, is you can see Radical Rick there, and it looks like he's absorbing a jump on the top tube. And I had him rip through the Haro logo. I mean,
that's amazing.
What company would let you thrash their logo? And they go, you do what you got to do. And that was sort of a great example, Craig, of like that partnership with John, where he's like, dude, do it. And so each seat post, there's 3 different sizes, 24, 26, and 29, has a different seat post and has a different color pattern, and I'll show you what that is. And so I said, and the other thing is I want to do this mashup of the Haro logo, and I like the idea of hint to Radical Rick, a hint to the Haro. So I played around with it a little bit, and I think we all kind of leaned into this one to the left with Radical Rick's head, kind of like the chevron is like a skull and crossbones. So, and
I
then
want that as
of
a t-shirt, dude.
I think there's going to be something coming out like that.
Dear Haro, whoever's at Haro right now, if you see this podcast, please make that a t-shirt, the one on the left.
Okay, I'm going to tell them.
Dude, that is so sick. I would buy that in a heartbeat.
I think their plan is they're going to put it on the pocket, and then they have one of the scenes from the seat tube on the back. But I love that for the front for sure.
So dope.
And then I said, the bike got to have a number plate, right? We got to have a number plate. So I suggested some different number plates. It ended up being more like the big one you see there with bullet holes and a Band-Aid and stickers and some, there's a little bit of roadkill there. And then I said, how about the seat? Like the seat is a surface, right? That's a canvas too. Could we come up with something, and I had done this poster for a record company called Dynalone. Radical Rick, when Dynalone turned 10, the guy really liked BMX and Radical Rick and goes, hey, would you make me a poster? So I did this poster. You can see it up there in the upper right-hand corner. Added all this kind of stuff surrounding, like a halo around Radical Rick, Whammo burgers and skateboards, weird eyeballs and cakes and stuff to celebrate a birthday. And so I took that and I created a pattern for the seat and the handlebar stem and the handlebar crossbar and the frame bar. And then this was sort of the idea of the frame size. And, I knew that the logo that I was suggesting, this sort of dot pattern logo, which just felt so 80s and kind of had that harken back to the screen printing, to the fact that it was an actual printed thing. It wasn't a digital thing. It was old school. So I tried to bring that into it. And then I had this idea, I didn't know how to do it, but could we do a fade? And Haro did a pretty cool, ingenious thing where they painted the bottom. The way they did that is they painted the bottom bracket where the 3 tubes come together. That's paint. And the bottom of the fork is paint. And they applied a gradation decal using that dot pattern, really obvious dot pattern. Like we weren't trying to fool anybody, like it was sprayed. Like we really wanted people to see that.
It has to look like that. You guys. So if you're just listening to the podcast, when we say the dot pattern, we're talking about like that dot matrix pattern you remember as a kid. And you know, a lot of pop culture posters will use it. It'll say like, usually it's like that surprised comic looking woman, and she's on the phone. It's like, wow, you know, it's that dot pattern. So yeah, continue, dude. It's brilliant though that they painted the frames. I thought maybe that was a decal. So that's interesting to see that they painted those.
Yeah, that's me. That is a Schwinn, the banana seat, and a fiberglass. You can see that the tubes are fiberglass, and then we would like, I had this time, I think I have I don't know what kind of sticker that is, but normally I had a Husqvarna sticker, so it's the Swedish motorcycle. And I gave that to them just because like I wanted them to know that, you know, these are our roots.
Right.
You know, and there you are.
Rooted. Love it.
So there you have it.
Which seat did they go with? Can you go back to the seats real quick? So I love the seat in the top left corner, and that one is so cool.
Yeah. They did not go with that seat. They went with a more of it's really not here. I have it behind me. Do you want to take over the screen? I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, go ahead and stop sharing. And
I'll show you what the seat ended up looking like.
Yeah, let's take a look.
I'll be quiet for a moment, or you will, I won't be able to hear you, but watch this.
Okay, so yeah, so I'm spotlighting him so you can still see it, but the seat is blue.
Can you see that?
Yes. It's blue, some blacks with some black print on it. So
this is cool. So what they did was I had a bunch of, the idea was that we would hide decals under the pad, and so on each side of the bike, I don't know if you can see that there, but there's roadkill in the classic Radical Rick fashion. That's the only tease you're going to get of that bike.
He just
that was
rides it right off. Yeah, he's like, yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, but this is kind of cool. It's like guys are taking some of the older Radical Rick product. Like Sombrosa came up with a seat a couple years ago, and they're adding these different components onto the bike. And I happen to know that there's a 24-incher that is coming out that is going to be crazy.
That's amazing. You guys, I'm going to quickly just show you over on the Haro site what these bikes look like so you can see them. All right, so this is just, I'm at Haro Bikes, and here is the 24. It's the green one. Right down here, you got the green. Here's the C-tube. The C-tube graphics we talked about, Radical Rick here. Do they give you some more? There we go. There's the front with that logo. Haro, make a shirt of that, please. But yeah, here we go. Got this here, and then inside here, what we just saw was the roadkill. I love how it has Radical Rick coming out of the front of that pad. Love that subtlety there. This one's probably my favorite colorway is the pink one.
Pink one is so rad. So nice.
And there you go. You can see the dot matrix pattern we're talking about, how it's so iconic for like old printing. You'll remember that. But this one doesn't have the pad, so you can see there's Radical Rick, there's the Roadkill.
Hey, look at that. Look at that, Isaac. See the green Haro? And I
Right
had,
here.
yeah,
Yep.
I mean, that is pretty cool that they would let me do that. And then it has all this blood and guts coming out of it. That pretty sweet of those guys.
I like it. You guys, so this is the 26-inch version of the bike. The 24, 26, and 29 all have disc brakes. Looks like they all have 3-piece cranks. They are not the double top tube like a Master. It looks more like a Slow Ride or something like that. Like basic BMX looking bike, tube wise, design wise, geometry. And here's the 29. The 29 is blue, the 24 is green, and the 26 is the pink on the bottom bracket and the forks. So that's the colorways there. But looks like they all have the same head tube logo that we agreed was the best one. So you have to check it out for yourself. Tell me if you agree with Craig and I.
That bike, Isaac, I mean, check it. And if you could bring it back up, well, you don't have to bring it back up. We just saw it, but if you do, that's a real bike. That's not a cartoon bike that they put on something that just, they were like, well, no one's going to ride this. That thing is a rideable. That thing is quality. It's got crazy cool graphics. So the collectors out there who want to, they want that Radical Rick Haro collectible bike. They've got their cup filled, and a guy who goes, I want that bike and I want to get on it and go do Radical Rick stuff. His cup is filled, man. That thing is legit.
Oh man, I got to tell you, when I got on the 29, oh gosh, it just felt so great. I was thinking, so funny is that's my first 29, and I just thought a wheelie would come. Watch you guys wheelie all the time, right? I'm just going, gosh, man, I used to wheelie all the time. I'm going to go back to your podcast on how to wheelie, because I could not believe. I swear to you, I dream wheelies. In my dreams, man, I'm just like wheeling. I'm so good. And yeah, I just have to really I just got to get it all figured out. But what a fun, when you get on that bike, what do you want to do is it really, I don't know how to explain it, but it's similar for me. It would be like when you were a kid and you were getting on your bike and you're making noises while you're riding, you're jumping off stuff, and you're imagining whatever movie you just saw, you're on your bike and you're that dude. And yeah, I really like this bike, and this is a prototype, so I want to take good care of it. And
you see how you were smiling when you were explaining that, Damian? Like
yeah.
the words don't come because you're like thinking about the emotions that are tied to it. Like I just get on it and I'm trying. That's what we're all trying to reach and achieve. And Isaac and I, when we talk about the things that we do and especially what you're doing on your Radical Rick bike and our bikes, that's what we are trying to achieve. We're still trying to find those moments of what you just couldn't explain with a huge smile on your face. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, just accelerating on that bike, and it's more scale to my body than a 20-inch. I'm 6'2". It's quite a luxury. I feel like a kid on it. It's bigger. Yeah. There's something about, when I get on a 20-inch bike, I've what happened? I grew up. I mean, even if I get a Stingray, like I was at a flea market earlier today and looking at a Stingray, it's so tiny. It seems so big, or it seemed the right size. And when you get on a big bike, I mean, it's like, you're little again. And yeah, it's a special feeling.
I tell people all the time, here's the deal. A big bike is a time machine because your brain remembers how far you sat from the bottom bracket. That's what your brain remembers. Yeah. So when you sit on a 20-inch bike, when your brain got cued in on that when you were 13 and you were 5'4", whatever. Now that you are 6'2", you have to fill in the gap for your brain to go, yep, this feels right. So to scale up, you scale like your body, you said the right word, scaled up. So now you're 6'2". Well, okay, if you want to feel the bike that you rode when you were 14, then you have to ride a 26 or a 29 now, unless you stayed the same height you were when you were 12 or 13.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
if you want it, when you put your leg over and you sit on that bike and you sit on those bars, for the longest time, big bike companies would give you cruiser bars that were little short bars, right?
Yeah.
Because they thought you wanted a mountain bike. And finally, they're starting to understand, like, no, dude, I want a BMX bike. So they're like, we'll give you BMX handlebars, which is what Haro and SE and all the brands
Yeah.
are doing now are doing. They finally got it. But these big bikes are time machines. So when I get on my bike and I look down and I see a BMX frame, it's a time machine. Now you throw on the extra layer of, Radical Rick and MX Mug and Switchblade. I see it all there.
Yeah.
And what's cool to me, Craig, is remember when I was a kid, I could tell you every weld defect on my Haro Master when I was 13, because I would clean that bike. That was the most precious thing that I owned, right? It was the most important thing I owned. It's how I got around, and it is how I had fun, and it is how it was everything to me. So I washed my bike, I cleaned it, so I knew every piece of it. Dude, imagine looking at this bike, Craig. You'd catch every little thing, because watching, like, when I would flip to my, like, Radical Rick was our cereal, dude. I was introduced to cereals with Star Wars, because Star Wars is just a movie version of a cereal. And so the only cereal that we had that I could relate to as a kid was Radical Rick, right? So I would go through Radical Rick and I would do the same thing. I'd read story, then I would try and find all the stuff that was hidden in there, right? I would look for, like, where was the stickers on the ramp, or what was flying off of the ramp? Like, dude, that's a brake lever. That's not a piece of wood. That's a brake lever. Where did that come from, right?
Yeah.
And so I would be doing this with the bike. You know what I mean, Craig? Like, looking for all those hidden things.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's part of the whole, like, for me, it's, if I can remember reading back, but like reading Radical Rick or Mad, it's like you read it and you go through it with the excitement of just looking at everything. And it's like, okay, let me like you said, let me just see what I can see in here, and the details that pop out. I mean, Radical Rick, if you look back at Damian's presentation, you guys go back and check that out. Go decode all that. There are his encrypted code within the Radical Rick font that you could go back in and decode if you want. I mean, there's so much going on. It's just, you're right, Isaac. It's one of those things where you just, you keep looking at it, and you go back and back and back. So it's pretty cool.
Dude, I gotta tell you, Damian, what else is there? What, as we start to wind down, what else is coming on, after this? What do you have next?
I feel like I'm so blessed. I can't stand it. Bob Haro, we're the part of the Mutual Admiration Society. I think we both respect each other, and we were there so early on. We were compared to each other, and he always says, "No, I didn't do Radical Rick," and I always see, like, online, Bob Haro drew this. And I said, "Oh no, that was me." So we have this ongoing kind of joke, and he reached out and he goes, "Hey, we should do something together, a t-shirt, a poster, something like that." And that gets me excited. We worked together, we collaborated. Do you know about Corona Raceway?
I've heard of Corona.
I've heard of it.
Yeah,
Killer
definitely.
Corona, where the biggest, craziest downhill ever. And like, they were, I think there was a race there, and somebody got Bob and I together. It's the only time we've done something together, probably 1980, say 84, I don't know, 86 or something. And it was two guys coming over the jump, Radical Rick, or I think it was Damian BMXer, and Bob did his BMXer jumping over this jump. And I think I had a Tombstones or something like that. I'd love to find that t-shirt, by the way, but I don't know where it is. But anyway, we worked together. We did that a long time ago. And I'm just so excited that and back to, how it became a Haro. Part of the reasons why I went to Haro, not just because, John Bulchins was just so passionate about his vision, and Kevin was right on top of every detail. But also, I do have some legacy, some background with Bob. and he dated my wife's sister. So we've known each other a long time. Oh, look at this. That's a Radical Rick shirt, but that's Bob Haro, right? That's a tribute to Bob done as Radical Rick.
That's amazing.
So yeah, we are so we might do something cool. By the way, I have to say one thing. Last time we did our podcast, I went back and I looked at it and I realized that there were all these comments and they're really positive, but there was one guy, Vincent Curry, and Vincent Curry said, by the way, back in 1984, there was a contest to name the new Radical Rick car. It was originally the Radillac. It blew up when a terrorist group was trying to hijack something from the U.S. Army. Radical Rick solved the problem, and as a result, the Army gave him the pieces of his Radillac back and a U.S. Army tank. They worked together, Rick and MX Mug, and they created the Attack-Lac. And there was a contest in BMX Plus, and it said, okay, name the Attack-Lac. There was all these great names. But apparently, Vincent Curry from Saugerties, New York, reminded us in that comment section that he never got his due. And that John Carr, I'm calling you out. John was supposed to make it right. Well, I'm telling you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, that guy, Vincent Curry, he is the official namer of the Attack-Lac. So, yes. So, Vincent, I hope you feel like the wrong has finally been corrected. Thank you so much for naming the Attack-Lac. I know it took about 40 years, but
Vincent Curry.
Vincent
Curry. We're all going to say your name. Vincent Curry from New York named the Attack-Lac. And
Correct.
We love you for it. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Vincent.
We appreciate you righting the wrongs of the BMX world. And as much as we are laughing about it, dude, that is awesome.
Pretty cool.
That you like remembered it, found the podcast, mentioned it. Damian, you saw it. So now it's on John Carr, dude. So John Carr, we're gonna make John Carr, since he's the only one not here. He is the villain of this story until we come up with something. So
yeah, John Carr, who just happens to be the only saint among us.
He's the only one. Like, he's the only like salt of the earth person left in this world.
Absolutely.
John Carr, we need you on the show. I will get a hold of you. Let's hear your side and let's right all the wrongs that may or may not have happened, buddy.
Yeah, let's get you on the show, and we'll get you on with Vincent so you guys can air it out. Like, we'll see. We'll have a handwriting expert, because we don't know if it's really Vincent. Maybe it's like Vincent's cousin taking credit.
Wait a second. Wait 1 second. I might have. Hold on.
I like where this is going, Craig.
This is the best. If you guys have hung around till now you're going to see something good. When Damian says, hold on.
Hey, here we go. Looky there.
Look what I have. Now we're going to see if Vincent Curry. Oh, man. Vincent, I'm looking for your name here. There's all the names of the people who entered down there. I am looking, Vincent. You're right. You may have been. Well, how do we know Vincent really did it? Okay, I think this is going to be. I'm going to have to take this to Radical Rick CSI and figure this out. But,
yeah, we got to figure what's going out, man. All right. Well, Vincent, I hope you find this episode. I hope you stick through to this part, because you are the star of the show, my friend.
Right.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah, you guys read the comments and we'll see how this goes. Like, this is me predicting that something rad's going to happen in the comments. So, dude, yeah.
One last thing I was going to say, you asked me about stuff coming out. There's the infamous Radical Rick Complete Episodes book that is supposed to be coming out. And I've been talking about that for a long, long time. I've had a lot of help from around the world, people scanning issues of BMX Plus. I just found out that Gork at the BMX Hall of Fame has a complete set, and I could have done that. But no, I had to kind of crowdsource it. And we have all the episodes scanned in decent condition. and the book is being designed. It is designed, and now it's with the publisher designer, and he's got 1,000 other projects. So
That happens.
I'm in the queue, but that is going to be awesome. The other thing I was going to mention, speaking of the Hall of Fame, we're going to do a special Radical Rick exhibit at the next Hall of Fame induction ceremony with a bunch of Radical Rick paraphernalia. The bikes will be there. I'll be signing. There'll be a poster, and it's going to be they're going to do an old school race there on the premises in Tulsa. So I don't have all the details yet. I just talked to Gork about it, but we're going to blow that thing out. I've never done a signing. I've never gone to a signing. So I want to do a signing, a proper, where I sit down and just thank everybody for the long run I've had with Radical Rick, and give back a little bit.
Do you ever talk about signing? Do you ever trip out on the fan made stuff that you see out there? Like, because I'll be honest, like the most coveted thing that right now that I've seen online, Craig, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's that Radical Rick helmet that somebody painted. It's a modern, it's a modern helmet, but it's very Radical Rick, and I'm like,
oh, it's dude, wrapping all around, and it looks like it's yes. Really well crafted.
Yes.
I like, and what gets me is and I've seen quite a bit of these, man, online or on Instagram and whatnot, is the Radical Rick tattoos. Like
unbelievable,
people, right?
I mean, did the dude that has it all the way across his back? That's what trips me out. It's like this is every now and then, there's a level of talent of tattooers, and there's some that are really, really great, and I think there's some that either they took a Xerox into the artist of a Xerox of a Xerox of a Xerox of a Xerox of Radical Rick. So you kind of end up with
yeah, like, bro, yeah, were you locked up when you got this? Like, is this a guitar string and a Walkman? Because this don't look right. You know what I mean? yeah, I get it, dude. I've seen those too.
I mean, but it's cool, because they are. It's funny too. I'll tell you something awesome. Yes, I am so flattered, and it is pretty kooky to see that now that you make me think about it. But what is wild is some people go out of their way to say, hey, would it be okay with you if I took this image and I had it tattooed on me? And I'm going, oh my gosh, yes, you go. I mean,
right. I mean,
it's an honor, right? And you were talking about fan art. Is occasionally I'll get someone will take something and build it and send it to me, and this is a cool little figure that a guy named Taco in Japan made, and this guy went deep with like the proper jersey, and can you see the little ripped knee right here, and the Vans, and so there's stuff that's done that is, I'm really, really impressed. When you see a mural, a Radical Rick mural, like that's a lot of paint. That's a lot of surface area. A birthday cake, a Radical Rick birthday cake, very cool. So
I want that.
Yeah. Dude, okay, so when you see like that the figure from Taco, did you ever look at stuff and be like, man, I remember making that choice to make that a rounded instead of sharp, and like, do you remember the little decisions you made? And then what's it like to see someone recreate that, in a different medium like that, like a tattoo or a sculpt?
It's one of my favorite things is when they put themselves into it, and there's a pretty famous, or I follow him, artist named Johnny Crap, and Johnny does pinball machines, and you know, he does great murals, and it's so weird. I'm following him, and all of a sudden he goes, here's my attempt at a Radical Rick. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? So I'm flattered that, you know, we talked about that a little bit earlier, is when, you know, like you said, is that's the one kind of drawing thing that might, if you were into BMX, that was like what you practice drawing, right? You might practice Radical Rick or whatever. So yeah, when you know, run across that, you know, people that are, I mean, there are a lot of artists that are way better renderers and artists than I am, who, when they were 12 years old, they're on Radical Rick and they're reading the magazine and they loved it, and they probably were going to be a great artist and drawer anyway, but they stuck with it, and then they occasionally will go, hey man, thank you, and I go, man, thank you, because you can draw, man. You can draw and design, and yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the cool things that you do, Damian, is like over the years and me following your account and getting to watch what you do, you put your art on display for everyone to see, not only complete, but you show people the process of what it takes to create artwork. And since we're speaking about Radical Rick, and you show a lot more art than Radical Rick, but you know, on topic, let's just keep it where it's at. You've done Radical Rick drawings on Band-Aid boxes, on like cold medication, like these little quick doodles that when they're finished, you're like, wow, you not only did this Radical Rick face and helmet and all that, but you used the boxes, like the lettering to be the eyes, or you did something that, you know, all that stuff is inspiring. So with me, yeah, and you know, I play around with artwork, but you've even contacted, you've contacted me and said, keep going, dude, don't stop. And then you did the 100 days of art, drawing, I think, of drawing,
100-day drawing challenge. Never ever again, but it was awesome. But I my hope in that, Craig, was I get so much stoke out of drawing, and it's the same thing, because I drew as a little kid, and then work and life and stuff pushes that hobby or that escape away, and you don't get to do that as much. And it's still just as good. Like, I remember you sent me something, it's like, it was still rendered really well. Like you clearly have some drawing chops. And it's like, that comes only if you've got some hours in, right? And drawing is just like riding a bike. The more time you put towards your tricks or whatever you're trying to do, the better you get and the more fulfilling it is. And so part of that 100-day drawing challenge was really me saying, okay, Dame, you keep saying you're an artist and you're going to draw. Well, get drawn, dude. Do it. Yeah. Do it every day. And oh man, I had a blast, but it was high pressure for sure.
Dude, that's amazing. I gotta tell you, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for embracing us BMXers at this chapter in our life. You so easily could have said, you know what, man, that was a different chapter in my life. I do fine art gallery stuff, and it's not part of me anymore. And I appreciate it. You could do it in a really classy way. But dude, thank you so much for you know, feeding our stoke and doing that. And I hope at some point in your life, like, you get to walk into an airport and somebody, you know, like, you just get a Radical Rick and 50 people turn around, because that's the impact. Like, you could walk into any movie theater, and I promise you at least one person in a packed movie theater has followed your brain and your storytelling. You know what I mean?
That's
and
funny.
That is so cool to me, to think like, you know, there's people like Craig and I and the fans of the show that have seen probably every episode. But there's also people that just were dabblers, you know what I mean? The kids that just maybe they read Radical Rick or BMX Plus for, you know, 6 months, or maybe they got a subscription, or they weren't lucky enough to have, you know, I was poor as shit, but there were people that you know, couldn't afford the magazines. And so maybe they only got to see them when they went to the doctor's office, because their doctor was cool and had
libraries. I found out libraries were the secret place. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I mean, so Radical Rick has been everywhere, around the globe. And what has happened now in my adulthood is I got to welcome Radical Rick every month into my house and into my life and catch up with my friends. And now through, like places like Cat with Crush or Bill with Supercross, and I can have MX Mug sitting here while I'm working at work. You know what I mean?
Hey, he's number 2. He's number 2. Okay.
Right. Right.
So close.
Right.
You know what? If MX Mug was here, you know what he would do? He would, when no one was looking, he'd break off the middle finger, so he'd be going like this.
I bet Scuzzer would, because Scuzzer sits right behind him.
Hey, and speaking of Bill Ryan, you guys, you brought the bobblehead down, Isaac, and Damian was making like this little, almost like a MX voice. Bill does voices of his bobbleheads, and he talks in a certain voice when he's holding them. It's
really
so good.
Oh, I gotta ask him to do it.
Yeah. It's fantastic, dude. So just on behalf of all of us, dude, thanks for giving us an opportunity to bring Radical Rick back into our lives and welcome our friends back in, and with the bikes, the merch and stuff like that. Dude, I absolutely adore it. I love seeing the stuff that's out there. I love the fan art that I see. I love the official Radical Rick stuff. Dude, just keep it coming, man. We love you for it. And it's one of those things where, my tastes have also grown with my age and my size and the bikes I choose. So seeing your fine art, but seeing other things that you've evolved. It's not just like, oh, I draw Radical Rick. It's to see what you're doing, that the stuff that you capture. Cause like it's definitely, you captured SoCal so well. I got to tell you, dude, like looking through your website, just looking at the images, dude, SoCal it's just what you remember. You know what I mean? There's somehow you captured nostalgia that I remember, cause like I would ride down in Huntington and I would ride down in those areas, Newport, and places. Yeah, El Segundo, and just riding around, dude, and seeing that stuff. And it's just so, the sunsets and the water, and just it's a vibe, dude. So thank you so much for everything you've done for art, for BMX, and for Big Bike BMX, man. We appreciate you coming on. So, Craig, any last questions?
Yeah, man. Just thank you, Damian, for not only showing up here for a second time, man. We are super stoked to have you, but just for being a real, passionate person. You mentioned passion, the smile on your face was a big takeaway tonight. And everyone, including yourself, that talks about BMX, that talks about Radical Rick, people that we have on the show, and you did it tonight. You were talking about fun, and this is fun. You're having fun. We're having fun watching you do what you do. And thank goodness the creativity and everything that goes on in your head makes its way down your arm to your hand, to your pen and ink and watercolor and all that stuff. So we could see what goes on in the mind of Damian Fulton across all his artwork, especially Radical Rick. So thank you for doing that. And appreciate it again that you came and honored us with your time.
Well, let me just give it right back to you guys. I appreciate what you guys do for the sport of BMX, for the vibe of BMX. And again, I talked earlier about those moments when I feel like vindicated. And, when cool dudes like you admit that BMX is awesome, it means a lot to me. And I have to be honest, I didn't want to disappoint you two guys, because what you guys are doing for the sport and, your passion is contagious. And, there's an invitation that happens when you guys talk about the sport. And I don't feel like it's a highbrow, hey, you have to, you have to at least qualify in a main in order to ride a BMX bike. No, it's the kid back in the day who, like you were saying, Isaac, maybe he didn't have a BMX track near him, but he rode the bikes and he lived the dream. And that dream, that idea of freedom is still accessible to us. Like Radical Rick says, is stay rad, don't be a wimp. We don't want to go away thinking that we could have done something I hope all of us continue to push and do things out of our comfort zone, because I think the world's a little too comfy right now. And I thank you guys, and I appreciate you guys for rocking and rolling this thing and making it bigger for all of us, because I think everybody benefits from it.
Dude, that I appreciate. So kind. I will tell you, dude, the way that Craig and I look at it, we're not special. We're just two dudes that love BMX bikes, sitting on the curb outside of a gas and sip at like, 8 o'clock. And we're looking at it like, man, we got to get home. Lights are about to be on. But bro, you and everybody else, dude, you're always welcome to post up on the curb next to
Thank
us
you.
and have a Slurpee and you
Right
can
on.
read through the magazines. We'll all pull our money, buy one magazine, and we all get to borrow it for a week. So,
So good.
yeah.
Right. Well, thanks you guys. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah.
And you're always welcome, man. Come back anytime. And you guys, so Damian, real quick, where can we find you? Give me your Instagram, your websites. How do we find you?
Sure. For all things Radical Rick, go to radicalrickbmx.com. I know that's tricky. radicalrickbmx.com. And on Instagram, it's just Damian Fulton, DamianFulton.
Okay. And then my last question, dude, because I know I'm going to get asked 5 or 6 times from fans that now own BMX company stuff for collaboration inquiries. Do you prefer hit them up on the website or on your Instagram?
Either way would be great. Yeah, and I'm open to good ideas. So let's do it.
There you go. All right. So if you are a BMX entrepreneur and you have a rad company that would benefit from making something super cool with Damian, man, hit him up. Maybe you will be the lucky one to get the next collab. But
man.
Yeah, I hope you do, and I hope you make something rad, because I'll end up buying it.
All right, guys.
Y'all, thank you so much for tuning in. I love every one of you. Thank you for staying tuned and listening to this whole episode. We appreciate you. The video is on, if you're listening on Apple or on Spotify, there's a video of this interview on YouTube. You can see everything that Damian presented and walked through. It's really cool. I would highly recommend you go check it out on YouTube, just so you can see. Fast forward until you get to that area where you can see his presentation, because it's art that I either haven't seen before or just have not. I haven't seen in a long time. So it's really cool to see that stuff and see the vision come to life, especially if you have a Haro bike. You can get those Haro bikes over at harobikes.com. You can take a look at them, go to your local dealer, support your local bike shops. My homeboy, Craig, bro, thank you so much for hanging out. How about you take us out, bro?
You got it, man. Hey, everybody here at Big Bike BMX, we want to thank you guys for showing up here. Like Isaac mentioned, on the streaming platform, hopefully you guys are checking this out there, and on YouTube. Like Isaac said, if you haven't jumped over to that yet, go check out the YouTube episode. You could see all of Damian's artwork as it's related to the bike, all the merchandise he showed, and all those things that are really cool with what goes on YouTube. You guys over in the live chat, you've been hanging out with us this whole episode. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. Please keep coming back to Big Bike BMX. This is probably one of the last episodes we're going to do to close out 2022. So for everybody who's been a supporter, a fan, and a listener of Big Bike BMX, we love you guys. We thank you. Again, huge shout out, huge thank you to Damian Fulton and Radical Rick and the whole crew that's involved with him. We love you guys, and thanks again for appearing here on Big Bike BMX. For Isaac Irvine, I'm 80s BMX Craig. This is Big Bike BMX. Happy holidays to everyone. Thanks for coming out.